Okay, Beruchim Abayim. We're in Parashat Pinchas. What's the question? What's it? It's going to be a hard night over here. Okay. We're involved in big subjects here. We're going deep into analyzing things over here. We're going to try to make heavy subjects palatable. We're going to try to take depth and try to make it as light as we can without watering it down, but so you get the points. So again, I tell you every week, bear with me, and if you don't understand it, ask questions, because we want you to understand the point clearly. I might not be saying it as clear as I can. The truth of the matter is, I'm going to say this on tape to all our people there in TV land, that the truth of the matter, this class should be taped the last time I give it. So I give it on Wednesday night, I give it again on Thursday night, I give it again on Saturday morning, and I give it again Saturday afternoon. So by Saturday afternoon already it's perfected, or whatever it's perfected means, but at least it comes out much smoother than it comes out on Wednesday nights. So that's why you have to bear with me. It's easy to hear it on Wednesday night, and on Saturday night. Hadush is if you can figure it out on Wednesday night when it's still a little foggy. Especially when it's a deep subject. Steve, it's a massive subject. Steve likes when we say massive. It is massive. Okay, Parashat Pinchas. The pasuk says, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aharon HaKohen eshiv et hamati me'al bnei Yisrael bekan'o et kin'ati betocham ve'lo chiliti et bnei Yisrael bekin'ati. Pinchas avenged the anger of Hashem by killing someone that was committing a perverted act, a sin. Came Pinchas and went and killed the sinners. We'll go into the story exactly what happened. And after he did this action, which is in last week's Parashat, the opening of this week's Parashat discusses the reward that Pinchas gets for doing the action. What was the action? Bilam, we talked about a little last week in passing, Yimach Shemo v'Zechor. On Bilam you could say Yimach Shemo. And we'll see what I mean a little later. Bilam had a plan to destroy the Jewish people. He tried to curse them. It didn't work. So then he said, if we can get the Jewish people to commit an immoral act, their God hates perversion, their God hates immorality. So he made a whole idea to get prostitutes from the Midyanim to come and seduce Bnei Israel. And unfortunately Bnei Israel got seduced. And in the end, 24,000 Jews died in a plague. So Bilam was somewhat successful, you might say. He couldn't kill all of us, Baruch Hashem, but he was able to make a dent. When did the plague stop? There was a fellow, the head of the tribe of Shimon. His name was Zimri ben Salu. He went and committed an act of immorality with a lady called Kozbi Batsur, who was the princess of the daughter of the king Sur. She was a Goya. And he went in public and committed an immoral act. Nesi Shevet Yisrael. Wasn't a simpleton. He was a respectable man of upstanding citizen, notary public. And when Pinchas saw this act, he took out his spear and he went and stuck it through Zimri, through Kozbi, shish kebab, right through, lifted it up, and once he did that act, it says, the Magifah stopped, the plague stopped. That was the act of Pinchas. That's last week's Parashat. This week's Parashat starts off Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aharon, who's the grandson of Aharon, Pinchas. Discusses what he did, and God gives him a reward that you're going to be a Kohen, and you're going to live forever. Pinchas also is known as another great man in history, Eliyahu HaNavi. Pinchas is Eliyahu HaNavi. Eliyahu HaNavi is, according to the tradition that we have, never died. He's always around. He's always coming to have weekly lives every single day. He's always around Eliyahu HaNavi. He appears in every generation. So the reward of Pinchas' act is tremendous. The only question that we could start off with tonight is, why the delay in telling us what the reward of Pinchas was? Now, the last week's Parashat, you left us at a cliffhanger. You had Pinchas, he did the action, he killed, he did everything, and the Magifah stopped, and end of story. Now we dedicate a whole new Parashat to the reward of Pinchas. Why the break in between? Why couldn't they just finish the epilogue, finish the story? And by the way, Hashem gave a reward to Pinchas, and then start new subject in this week's Parashat. And you have to know a rule. Whenever there's a break in the Torah, Rashi says this, Vayikra, that when there were breaks in the Parashiyot, that was for Moshe Rabbeinu to think of what was said in the previous Parashat. They didn't have time to analyze what was said. Therefore, there's a little break. Sometimes you look at the Sefer Torah, see there's like a couple of lines, or a line separating one part to another. Those breaks were there on purpose, because Moshe needed time to digest the previous subject before he can go further. So they put a little break in the action so he could think. If there's a break in the action between these two parashiyot, from the action of Pinchas' reward, that means you have to analyze the action before you can go further. It's not so simple that Pinchas deserves reward. It's not so simple. The Torah is putting a separation to say, hold it. You got to analyze what he did, and then see if he's deserving reward. Because it is not such a simple thing what Pinchas did. And that's what we want to analyze tonight. There's two types of actions. There's one type of action that the action is a good action, and the kavanah, the intent, is like the cherry on top. Adds to the enhancement of the mitzvah. For example, a guy puts on the tefillin. He's doing a great thing. Or think about a guy. Guy's giving tzedakah. Beautiful action, right? The kavanah, let's say he's giving the tzedakah because God told him to give tzedakah. Great. That enhances the mitzvah. But even if he doesn't have kavanah, the mitzvah is still a mitzvah. He gave the tzedakah. There's certain actions that the action is a bad action, but the kavanah purifies the action. He does something bad, but if the intent is good, it turns the bad action into a good action. What Pinchas did falls into the second type of category. A bad action with very good intent. And you'll see what I mean.
How is it a bad action?
We'll see.
Kill someone. You're supposed to kill somebody if you see him.
Not so simple. We'll see. Pinchas is called a kanai. You know what a kanai is? Let's say this clear now. In English, they translate kanai as zealot. Zealot is one that wants to fulfill God's will to the highest level. Some people will explain Pinchas and will depict Pinchas with a very negative word. And I'm telling you, it's wrong. They'll call Pinchas a fanatic. Pinchas by no means is a fanatic. Fanatic implies negative. Nobody wants to be a fanatic. Pinchas surely was not a fanatic in the negative sense. You want to call him a zealot, you want to call him a kanai. There's a rule. Kol habo'el aramit, whoever has a relation with a goya, halakha says kanaim pog'im bo. The zealots are allowed to attack. Zealots are allowed to kill him. If you're a kanai, not everybody's a kanai, but if you are on the level of a kanai, a zealot, you're able to take your spear and you're able to go and stick it through the guy and you're allowed to murder. On one condition, you're a kanai. Let's see what this kanai has to be, what the prerequisites of a kanai are. Rav Moshe Feinstein writes in his Sefer that this law of that the zealot can kill someone that's committing a perverted act is talking about a person that his sole intention, 1,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000% is because he wants to eradicate the evil, because it's God's will. He's not doing it for personal satisfaction. He's not doing it because he's angry. He's not doing it because he's jealous. And I'm not talking about 99% L'Shem Shamayim, 1% bit. Even if he's a millionth of a percent for personal benefit, Rav Moshe Feinstein says he is a rotzayah. You're a murderer. To be a kanai, you have to be 1,000% totally L'Shem Shamayim, because this guy is going against the will of God, and I have to make a stand for the will of God to stop this too. Not so easy to be a kanai. And he says, if you are not 100%, you're a murderer, and God will punish you like a murderer. Bet din, the courts cannot kill a person because we don't know what is in his mind. Maybe he was L'Shem Shamayim, maybe he wasn't L'Shem Shamayim. So the court of the land does not know when the kanai does something, what was in his mind. So they can't, there's no witnesses to that. It's in his mind. But if he was a fraction off in his mind, in his thought, you're a murderer, God will make sure that something happens to you. Yahayav, we call that mitah bidei shamayim. Excellent. So far? Okay.
Who can detect that a person's not?
God. Only God. That's right. Only God. Right. So God will be the only witness if you're a legitimate kanai or you're not a legitimate kanai. Right? I read a Hidush this week to show you maybe a little what kanaut is. A kanai, when he sees something wrong, he gets so overwhelmed by the action, what he's seeing, he gets so upset, and so it's just the normal reaction. It just overcomes him, the love of God, in order to react. You're not a kanai if you have to think it over. If a guy walks by and sees a guy committing an act with a goyan, he has to start thinking, am I allowed to kill him? Am I not allowed to kill him? I'm allowed to kill him. Already, if you had to think a little, it's not a kanai. A kanai acts upon impulse. I can tell you. Acts upon impulse, but the impulse is 1,000% L'Shem Shamayim. So it's not like when Pinchas saw this, he didn't go, open the books and start saying, what's the halakha? Am I allowed to kill him? Am I not allowed to kill him? He committed the action first. He killed them. And in the end, he remembered the halakha. Oh yeah, the halakha says, Kana'im pogim, I'm allowed to kill him. It's a big hadush.
But he fell in that category?
That's the question. What Pinchas did, was he a legitimate kanai? Or was he That's the question. That's why this action, what Pinchas is not a simple action. We can't right away say, in the same Parashat, and he gets a reward. Hold it. Kanai is a very, very tricky business. You gotta study the story very good before you can say, give him reward or don't give him reward. And it wasn't so pashut. It wasn't so simple. What Pinchas did was correct. The Malachei Sharet, the angels, came in front of God, the Gemara says, and says, that's it, we gotta knock off this guy Pinchas. He's Rotzayah. The angels were not able to detect that Pinchas was a L'Shem Shamayim. We'll see why. Furthermore, the Shevatim, the tribes, after they saw what Pinchas did, after they saw that the plague stopped after what he did, still started to belittle Pinchas. And they said, look at this guy, who his grandfather used to worship Avodah Zarah. His grandfather used to bring sacrifices to Avodah Zarah. And now he's going to go kill Chip, the president of the tribe of Israel. He's so pure. What's going on over here? What's going on over here? The angels thought Pinchas was off. The Shivatim thought he was off. Until God himself came and said, no, he's legit. He's a Kanai, the son of a Kanai. He's 100% L'Shem Shamayim. What was going on over here? What was the problem with the Shivatim over here? Why did the Malachim not understand it so clearly? So first we have to understand the beginning rule. And this is important. That's the funny thing about people that come to class. It's usually the people that come to class that don't have to hear the Musar. It's usually the people who come to class, usually good guys that want to learn Torah. It's the guys who don't come to class who should be hearing the Musar that's being said in the class. But we can gain from it anyway. The avon of going with Goyim. Goel Aramit. Ben Minan. Committing immorality with Goyot. Forget about what the Zohar says, what happens to the person's neshama. Forget about all the spooky things. Rambam classifies that sin of going with the Goya not as only immorality. Rambam calls it the first level of Avodah Zarah. You're attaching yourself to a Avodah Zarah. You're attaching yourself to a Goya. That's Avodah Zarah. Amazing. You're not allowed to even come close to Avodah Zarah. The first level of coming close to Avodah is going attaching yourself with a Goya. Goya is Avodah Zarah. Goya, they worship Avodah Zarah. You're attaching yourself with Avodah Zarah. That's Avodah Zarah. Amazing fundamental yesod. I'll go ask a regular guy in the street that's involved in the sport, and I don't know this, but I know this from people what they tell me, because I never did this sport. They call it clubbing. How's it clubbing? They go, it's a sport, no? They go from one club to another club to another club. Not the disco Rabbi in that. I'm talking about regular guys that are going to have a good time. So they think, we're just having some fun. There is no difference. Watch what you can quote me. There is no difference between a guy walking into a club than the guy walking into a church on Sunday morning and listening to what the preacher has to say and then putting a cross on his neck and kissing the Pope's shoes. There's no difference. Avodah Zarah, both cases. Attaching yourself with Goyim manifests itself in church and manifests itself in a club when you're attaching yourself as a Goyim.
You have to be man or woman?
Obviously. Well, I'm assuming that that's what the sport is.
How about in business?
So then let me make it clear then. So let me make it clear. I think it is clear, by the way. I think it's clear. Okay. That's why I'm going to make it clear.
That's it.
Okay. Dave, you're right.
No, not right.
The Hadush is over here. The Hadush is over here. I'm trying to point out, attaching yourself with Goyim is like Avodah Zarah. Till now you thought, okay, it's promiscuous, it's immorality, it's not proper, but Avodah Zarah, okay, it's Avodah Zarah. Rambam is telling you it's Avodah Zarah. Okay. So you tell it to your friends. It's interesting to know. It's interesting to know that when Zimri, the head of the tribe, was committing this act with the Goya, it says Bnei Israel were crying. They're watching what's happening, and they were crying. So the Targum, the commentary on the side, Targum, called Targum Yonatan, says, Behema bochim, they were crying. What were they doing? Korim Kiryat Shema. Interesting. According to Kiryat Shema, what's the connection between watching what Zimri is doing and reading Kiryat Shema? The explanation is, when they saw Zimri with the Goya, they had seen someone worshipping Avodah Zarah. So you know what they were doing? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hashem is God, not this. They understood what was happening over there. It's an Avodah Zarah. That was a form of idolatry. That's a form of attaching yourself to what's going on. That's the deep explanation of what's really going on, fellas. Now watch this.
Why the plague?
Why the plague?
They were crying when we were doing it.
That was at the end. That's the end of the story. There's two types of people. There's one type of person that adorns himself and then adorns other people. Which means he perfects himself to such a high level of Kedusha, and such a high level of purity, that the purity overflows and automatically has an effect on people. He's so clean from sin and so clean from bad thoughts and so clean in mitzvah and everything, that Kedusha permeates from him like a glass. You fill it with water and you keep on filling it, overflows and it fills the whole table with water. He practices what he preaches. He adorns himself and then he adorns others. There's another type of guy. Another type of guy, the guy that just becomes religious. He knows all the lofty ideas of the Torah. He knows exactly what's the right thing to do, and he knows what has to be done. But on the other hand, it's very hard for him to adorn himself. He has a hard time living up to those ideals, to what he's reading, and what he's listening to, what he's hearing about. So instead of impressing those ideas on himself, he impresses it on his wife, he impresses on his children. To every friend walking in the street, he knows how to give musar to. That's not right, that's wrong, that's not. He's able to adorn others, but himself he is not adorned yet. He's able to accept Hashem on the four corners of the earth, on the Shamayim, on the Ares. He's able to accept Hashem on everybody else, except on himself. There's a problem with that guy. He's not fully baked yet. He's like baked on the outside, but he's still raw on the inside. So because he feels guilty on his lifestyle, so he gets like a sipuk. He gets like a good feeling by telling other people that they're doing something wrong. This is not a front we see. We know people like this. Gotta be very careful. When you're just becoming religious, you have to be careful not to fall into that trap. God will tell you, this guy over here, he's a born again. God, you're coming now to tell me, you're still doing, you're going to tell me what? Very careful when you're just getting into the thing there. You got to adorn yourself first before you go start adorning other people. Especially if you can go start killing people. Right. That you're not going to become a Baal Teshuvah, become a Zealot now. Walking around the streets with a spear, looking for guys walking out of the casino. Ah, what are you doing? How are you? Again, what? You're a dirty guy yourself. When are you going to start making kanaut? So that kanaut is coming from weakness. That zealousness is coming because he can't live up to it, but it's easy for him to, you do it. And he can scream loud for the other guy to do it, so that's a kind of weakness. That's murder.
No, it's not kind of
It's not, that's murder. Fine. Pinchas had a grandfather, his mother's side. My grandfather was called Yitro. Yitro worshipped Avodah Zarah. He didn't worship Avodah Zarah because out of lust, because it was the in thing to do, everybody was doing it. Yitro was the Pope. Yitro was the chief of the religion. all the questions of the church came to Yitro. He worshipped religion out of theory, out of philosophy. He was deep into it. So, the Shivatim felt that Pinchas' grandfather worshipped Avodah Zarah. Could it be that Pinchas is so clean from what his grandfather did that he can come and start screaming and killing people that are involved in Avodah Zarah? Is he more pure than Moshe Rabbeinu? Why did Moshe Rabbeinu get up and do it? This one who comes from hereditary from the genes of Oved Avodah Zarah. Is it possible that he can be so clean from the sin that he can go make a statement and go make a ma'aseh, a negative action of killing someone? This is impossible. And you have a rule. In order to perform an act like that, we said you have to be clean. Mordechai was the only one that was able to save the Jewish people in that time in the generation. You know why? Because he was the only one that didn't go to the party. You have to be clean from the sin in order to not bow against Haman, in order to fight Haman. But if you yourself are not clean, you'll never win. They held, not to say Pinchas was Oved Avodah Zarah. Everybody agreed that Pinchas was not Oved Avodah Zarah. But they held, you're not 100%. It's coming out of weakness, you cannot. It's coming because you didn't clean yourself first, so therefore you want to show everyone, what are you doing? Especially the one that he killed, Zimri ben Salu, the rabbis say he was 250 years old. He wasn't a young guy. He was old. From the people that came down to Egypt with Yaakov Avinu. He was one of the 70 people that came down with Moshe Rabbeinu. He was an old man. They all knew Zimri. He's like, one of the founding fathers. He's an old man. They all know him. He was there from the beginning. He saw Yaakov Avinu. Right? Pinchas is a whippersnapper, and you're a kid. You're a young guy. Moshe is older than him. Aharon's older. So they looked at Pinchas like, this is a young guy, young kolel guy that's a little hot. Has a little temper. He makes a halakha in front of his rabbi. Moshe says, Moshe didn't do anything. Or he's going to go in front of Moshe, killing a 200 years. It's coming from the wrong channels. The angels couldn't see it, and the Shivatim couldn't see it, until God himself came and said, he's a Kanai, the son of a Kanai. Who's the son of a Kanai? His great-great-grandfather was a man called Levi. Levi was also a Kanai. When Levi saw what the people of Shechem did to his sister Dinah, that they raped Dinah, what did Levi do? Okay. And Shimon, killed the whole town. That was coming from Kanaut. Strong. Knocked out the whole town. He's coming from Levi's Kanaut. What did Levi do when Bnei Yisrael worshipped the Egel? Boom! He went out and killed all the people that worshipped the Egel. It's coming from the pure channels. It's interesting. Zimri's father was Shimon. Zimri's mother was Dinah.
Yeah. Zimri's one they killed?
Yeah.
That Pinchas killed.
Yeah. So you have...
Who was Pinchas' father?
Pinchas' father is Elazar, the son of Aaron. Yitro came from his mother's side.
Is he the father-in-law?
So Aharon and Yisro was the father-in-law.
Aharon, and it testifies he's a legit Kanai. Meshiv Hema ben Meshiv Hema. He's one that calms the anger of God. He's the son of someone that calms the anger of God. Who calmed the anger of God? Aaron. Aaron used to bring Ketoret in the Beit HaMikdash. The Ketoret used to calm the anger of God. He's like Aaron. On Aaron it is written, Ohev Shalom Ve'Rodev Shalom. He's a man of peace. Pinchas is coming from the pure actions. It's coming not from weakness, it's coming from strength.
Answer your question.
Pinchas. I mean, you could say this guy goes around killing everybody all day long. Because every time he sees a Jew doing something wrong, this is what it is. Is that what he did all the time? Or is this the only act that he ever did?
You can say whatever you want.
No,
but the Torah says that he did it once.
Just once.
We don't see any other time in history that Pinchas did this. But once is too many if it's not L'Shem Shamayim. And the Torah is coming to tell you, God came and testified in this week's Parashat, he's legit. Once God testified that he's legit, the Malachim said, okay. Shevatim said, okay, finished. Which means, the only one that can really testify to who the real zealot is God. The great tribe were unable to discern. So it's not an easy level to reach. Pinchas was a giant. Look at the reward he gets. Halakha is if a Kohen killed one person, he's not allowed to make Birkat Kohanim. What's the reward for Pinchas? He becomes a Kohen for life. So you see, obviously that's not considered killing. That's considered a mitzvah. If someone that kills an innocent person is Hayav Mitah, what's Pinchas' reward? He loses forever. Pinchas did something that you would say, oh, look at him, he's causing strife, he's causing mahalok, he's killing people. What's the reward? Hashem gives him a covenant of shalom. But you did something that's against shalom. No! He did something that was for shalom, for the peace. He did something that was proper, he did a mitzvah. And all the rabbis come and answer the question. Pasuk starts off, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Hazak, what do you got to tell me? We know who he is. Give me his lineage, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron. You know why the Torah is giving his lineage? Because Hashem is saying, it wasn't coming from Yitro's side, it wasn't coming from his mother. This act was coming from his father's side. It was coming from Aaron's side of the family. He's Elazar, he's Aaron. They're right. He said it not very good. He's Yitro. He's Aaron's grandson, not Yitro's grandson. Excellent. He said it beautifully. So you see over here, this is the first leg of the class. You see from over here that if you're not gonna probably run into any zealots in our generation. We probably do not know any Canaanite. Very hard to be a true Canaanite. And our whole Torah, we see maybe Levi, and then Pinchas, rare exceptions to this. Not everyone can reach the level of Canaanut, which is totally L'Shem Shamayim. When they see something bad, it's just the love of God that takes over them. Usually, when we rebuke or we try to change things, it's partly because L'Shem Shamayim and partly because we get a good feeling of, getting a guy telling him he's wrong, and we elevate ourselves a little, and we want to show. So as long as you don't hurt anybody, you're okay.
But maybe in that day, when the level of holiness was so high, and if you really were true tonight, it was, because there wasn't that much sin going on. It was like the Jews were so holy then in that day and age. So maybe
it's easy to be a Kanai?
Not easy. It was, I'm saying, more justified, because if people were so holy then, if they saw something bad like that, they would maybe justify,
but still, you only see one or two Kanai.
No, I'm saying they have to be very special.
Yeah, they're special people, no question. So today you're not going to run into Kanai. You got to know that. Our role in the religion is not when you see guys driving on Shabbat to go take your rocks. And you see the guys throw rocks at them. Don't ask me why they're throwing rocks. There is a reason why they throw their rocks.
How would we know who can I get? Hashem, how would they know? Let's say
unless Hashem comes down and tells you this guy's a Kanai. If the Malachim got sketched and the Shevatim got sketched, so of course we're going to get sketched. Also, God tells you. So don't feel bad if you made a mistake.
But it's possible there's a Kanai running around.
I never met one. And if there is running around, be careful.
Very careful.
There was a Kanai. It is just, the modern day Kanai. His name was Rabbi. To show you what a Kanai of our generation is. On Shabbatot in Israel, they play soccer. Israelis have soccer here. That's Shabbat for Israelis. They go in their shorts, they sit in the soccer stadium, and they watch soccer all day long. All right, that's what's going on in Israel today. So Rabbi used to go to the games, and in the middle of the game, used to jump on the field and jump on the ball. And he's I'm throwing the ball, Luigi the ball, he's lying on the ball, Shabbat, you can't play. And they used to kick him, and they used to push him, and try to get the ball. He's the same someone who'll take the embarrassment, he's gonna get killed. That pictures of him on the newspapers every Shabbat, holding on to the ball. Why? Shabbat, you can't play on it. Okay. For us to do that would be very hypocritical. So I would jump on it. We're not so adorned that we can go start making public statements like that. This round was a big something, and his intention, only God will testify, but we can assume that his intention was really l'shem shamayim, because he did affect people. We're living in a generation where there's a lot of different philosophies flying in the air. A lot of different ideas jumping around. Some of these ideas, people wave the flag of Torah. These are Torah ideas. And sometimes it's really not Torah ideas. And there are a lot of fakers and a lot of phonies, like in every business. And there's no question about it. You definitely have to be careful from foreign ideologies and foreign philosophies in the Torah. You have to be on guard for that. But you also have to know another thing. As much diverse opinions you're going to hear in Torah, and as much crazy things and bad people you're going to hear about, there is a level of moderation that we all have to have. And I'm not saying to be moderate over here to say, it's okay, even though the guy's making fun of Torah, it's fine. No. Avraham Avinu realized that Yishmael, his son, was off the path. So what did Yishmael do? He threw him out of the house. Didn't think twice. Kish, you're out. When God tells him to sacrifice his son Yitzhak, it says, Kahna et bincha. Take your son. He used to have two sons. Et yehidecha, your only son. He says, I have two only sons. Yitzhak is the only son from Sarah, and Yishmael is the only son from Hagar. Asher ahavta, the one you love. He says, I love both of them. Very interesting. He threw Yishmael out of the house. He says, Kish, get out of here. You're a bad influence. You're a gangster. You're corrupting my son Yitzhak. And at the same time, he tells me, I love both of them. That's the greatness of Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu hated the action. He hated the action of evil so bad, get out of here. He'll throw out his own son. But it's coming out of love. I love him. I feel bad for him. Hazid, why did he go off the path? I'm going to pray for him that he makes teshuvah. Hope that he sees the light again. That's the attitude we're supposed to have on these people and these ideas and these thoughts. Never to ostracize anyone. We're in the times now of Bina Mitzari. Why am I talking about this? We're in the times of in the 3 weeks. Beit HaMikdash was destroyed because of baseless hatred. People talking about each other. This guy knocking this guy. This guy knocking this guy. He learned with this rabbi. He's a black hat. This guy, he's a white hat. This guy's a green hat. He's a no hat. Right. Everyone knocking the other guy. And sometimes there is some truth to it. Some things have to be knocked. A guy's going to come and start making fun of Torah. You got to know, hey, it's wrong. Can't say, moderation, hazit, accept it, all fine. You have to know how to sift out what's wrong and keep away from it and not associate with it and make sure you're with purity, but at the same time, no name calling, no bashing, no, that's the sinah.
But everybody
There's no, that's right. Unless you're a kanai who's 1,000,000% l'shem shamayim in your work, you have no right. There's no difference between taking a dagger and killing someone or using the dagger of your tongue and killing someone. Kanai, you're right. And if you're willing to take the risk of trying to act like a kanai, God will let you know if you're a kanai or not. And if you're not, it's not so nice. And I want to make my point. I'm not talking about compromising any part of our religion for this. We have to keep all 613 mitzvot. And we have to keep all the laws of Shulchan Aruch. Every single one of them. And if someone comes and says, one of the laws of the Torah does not apply, out, apikoros, finished. You have to recognize evil. You have to recognize bad things. You can't water down the religion, shalom, shalom, no, in the name of peace, we'll let this happen, we'll let this happen. That's the problem what happens in a community, that for years everything is, no, for shalom, and you see the community falling to the wayside because we've been letting it go too far under the disguise of shalom. But at the same time, you have to have shalom. You gotta throw Yishmael out and love him. Very difficult. When Abraham threw Yishmael out, he knew I gotta get rid of the sin maker. But he probably went in his house, started crying to him. I said, please let him come back to Teshuvah. Hasid, why do you act like this? Hashem, help him. There's a big difference. Yeah. Don't go to this class over because NG. They're giving you dirty waters. But not that the guys say, that's already extra. Hazid, I feel bad. It's a shame. He was misguided. Hashem, please bring him back to religion. You have a friend that's less religious. This guy, there's no heter to talk like that. You want to talk? Yeah. It's Yirason that he should make Teshuvah. When you say Hashivenu Abinu Toratech, have in mind that Hashem should bring this guy back to Teshuvah. Amazing, amazing story in our Torah. There was a lady called Timnah. Maybe you never heard of her. She came to Avraham Avinu to convert. Avraham, I want to be a convert. Avraham analyzes the situation. It's I cannot accept you. She goes to Yitzhak Avinu. Yitzhak, I want to be a convert. Yitzhak, no. She goes to Yaakov Avinu. No. All three refused her. What does Timnah say? Well, I want to be connected to these people one way or another. So she went and married Eliphaz. Eliphaz was the son of Esav. If I can't be with Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, I'll be with her. She married Eliphaz. Timnah is the mother of a great nation. The number one enemy of Bnei Israel, the nation that we have a commandment to kill the men, the children, the ladies, the animals, none other than Amalek. Where does Amalek come from? Because they pushed her away. No, we don't accept you. You're out. They ostracized.
So it's bad that they did that.
The results speak for themselves. But I want you to think of something. Avraham Avinu, what was his mission in life? Bringing back people to religion. That was his whole job, and he was the expert in it. Nobody knew how to bring people back to religion like Avraham. So, that means if Timnah came and wanted to convert, if Avraham said sorry, he must have seen. We'll accept anybody. You and Yitzhak saw the same thing, and Yaakov saw it. These people were interested in bringing people closer to God, not ostracizing. And what's the proof of the pudding? You see that she had the genes to bring an Amalek in the world. So you see that the evil was in her. She had the Amalek genes in her. So Avraham Avinu, you can't blame him for Astra. She saw that she was really NG. We have a claim. So that's a claim. Yeah, even so, with all that, with all what you saw and everything, you can't push too far. You push too much. Amazing what I hate to use the word toleration. That's the word, right? Toleration. Because usually toleration is used by the modern, you have to be tolerant. Tolerance, it's more the modern type of people use that word over there. It implies like, yeah, but be easy. I'm not talking about that type of tolerance. Maybe it's the wrong wording. Rule. Usually the people that speak about tolerance are the most intolerant people. I know that. What are they saying? You have to be tolerant to what we're doing. But they're not tolerant to what anyone else is doing. If you don't agree with me, we're not tolerant. But be tolerant with what we're doing. That's generally the way it works with that tolerance speech. But in any event, you gotta be patient. We'll call it patient. You can't push even the non-religious. You gotta bring them back with honey. You can't ostracize anybody because you never know. You push too far and Amalek comes out. Who's today's enemy of Christ? There was a religion that was started by a guy called Yemach Shemo V'Zichro. Yeshu. Yeshu. What does Yeshu stand for? Yemach Shemo V'Zichro. How did Yeshu come about? Yeshu came about. Yeshu was the student of one of the greatest Tanaim, Rabbi Yoshua ben Perachia. Student of the Tanah. Imagine that, having a rabbi in Tanah. And Rabbi Yoshua went to a hotel one day, and he was in the hotel, and the innkeeper was very kind to them. So Rabbi Yoshua says, what a nice innkeeper. So Yeshu tells Rabbi Yoshua, yeah, but her eyes are a little crooked. So Rabbi Yoshua looks at him and says, what? You pervert. I'm talking about her looks. Talking about her eyes. I'm saying she's nice and me thought. She suspected his rabbi for looking at a G and then commenting. Yeshu was very not such a respectful student, not such a good guy that he can suspect the Tanakh. So the Gemara comments and says that they put him in Heden, and they saw that Yeshu was a bad guy. They saw from this other things that he did, he was not a good guy.
His name is mentioned in the Gemara?
Yeah, Gemara Sotah. Some texts have it. If we know the story, it can't be erased. So, the proof is, look how bad Yeshu was. From Yeshu, look at all the evil that came into the world from this one guy. So definitely, he definitely had the potential in him of badness. But there's a claim against Rabbi Yoshua. You pushed him too far. You gotta be careful. We're not zealots. We're not Kanaim today. You always have to speak good about people. You always have to try to bring people back with the sweetness and the niceness. And the mudslinging and all that is doing is causing Sanat Hinam, stopping Mashiach from coming, stopping the building of the Beit HaMikdash. No question about it. You think you're doing a big zichud, oh yeah, look at that. You feel great. No, I knocked him. Yeah, oh yeah. Knock the action. Yeah, what he's doing is terrible. It stinks, it smells, it's the worst thing. Keep away from the action. But I love you, Shmuel. Still my son. It takes work. In a half hour class, you're not going to get, become an expert on it. You got to just have that philosophy, and don't let anybody con you and say that that's not what the Torah says. This is the Torah philosophy. You have to love everyone. Even Yishayim. So I'd be scared on my own to tell you, yeah, even Yishayim. But I'm looking at a sefer over here. And I'm reading, I have a rabbi called Moshe Cordovero, that I'm mock. Yergil Adam Atzmo Lechabed HaNivraim Kulam. You have to respect everybody. V'yergil Atzmo Lachnis Avat Ben Adam B'Libo. You have to train yourself to love all people. Va'afilu HaRishayim. Moshe Kordevira, a religious man. And he's telling you have to love the Rishayim. Ki'ilu ayu echav, like his brothers, v'yoter. Ad sheyikba b'libo ahavat b'nei adam kulam ba'afilu ha-Rishayim. And you know what he's supposed to say? Mi yetendi yu elu sadikim shavim b'tshuva. Oh, I wish that one day they can make teshuvah, these people, and become sadikim. Comes another rabbi, Maharal from Prague. You heard of the Maharal from Prague? Like he's a big league rabbi, okay? I'm giving you a source. I want to read it so you know it, drill it in your head. You gotta love people. And don't let anybody come on. You know you're allowed to talk, and you're allowed to make fun, you're allowed to shame, you're allowed to... It's not our way. Not the black hats on the white hats, not the white hats on the black. Yet there's going to be philosophical differences. And some of those philosophical differences are very problematic, and they might even be against Torah. Yet those things you got to speak against. This idea is a wrong idea. But not the guy who said it's got horns coming out of his ears. The guy who said it's going to burn and get him down for 300 years. That's already sin. That's already went over the border. You threw Yishmael out and you said, go to Gehinnom. Hope you die tomorrow morning. That's not mutar.
Are there some rabbis who accept some rabbis and don't accept this guy? I don't know. He's not so.
You're accepting the ideas and not the ideas. And therefore, it's hard to separate the idea from the person. So therefore, you're not accepting the person, but you don't hate the person. If I choose to go to one doctor as opposed to another doctor, you say, I hate the other doctor. No, I prefer this doctor. I like him. I relate to him, whatever. But the other doctor is also a good doctor. Why don't you come and say, this guy's a quack? Well, you got a problem. Now, in the religion, you are going to find quacks. You're going to find people that ride cars on Shabbat. You're going to find people that play ball on Shabbat. You're going to find people that roller skate on. You're going to find people that do all kinds of crazy things. You're going to say, knock them out. You're going to read the book. The book says it's asur. You say, this guy, kill him, amazing. That's not the way you're supposed to be. You got to be patient. And your kavanah is bringing back the religion eventually. By what? By making a better example by yourself and overflowing on other people, and people will learn from you. Make yourself a better person, you make the world a better place to live in. You make people better. It's a big point, though. We lost this already, by the way, in our community. We lost the whole concept over here. You have this shul over there, and that shul over there, and this shul we're against, and it became already where it's a mitzvah to alienate. And I'm over here, and they're over there, and you're in, and you're... It became already the 614th mitzvah in the Torah. You have to hate. There's certain people you got to hate. And I'm telling you from the sources that there's no source. I'll go read a statement from Maharal Prague. There's a statement from Rabbi Yaakov Luberbaum. There's a statement from Moshe Sofer. Moshe Sofer is interesting because he says, I once got into a fight with an apikoros, and they were screaming and yelling and was trying to disprove him. He says, but don't think for a second I walked away hating the guy. I was just trying to disprove his shitot. You might have got the impression that that's an apikoros he was talking to. Now again, it's dangerous to love a guy who's got crazy ideas because there's a sakana that you might get drawn into it. So again, it's not a love that you just let run wild. It has to be a very, you can't let yourself be so loving and loving that, I can go sit and listen and I can go hang around with these guys. If they're going to bring you down, that love is dangerous. But I'm talking about the name calling and the feelings that you have in your mind. And don't judge your friend harder than you judge yourself. When you make a sin, how hard are you on yourself? You give yourself 400 excuses why it's permissible to make that sin. But when you see your friend making a sin, this guy. Think about it. Did you ever commit that sin? And how did you act after you committed that sin? You rationalized it. But when your friend does it, you don't know how to rationalize it? That's sinah. Gemara tells a story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. Famous story you all know. What's the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa? Guy was having a party. So he had a friend. His friend was Kamsa. His enemy was Bar Kamsa. He tells the invitation guy, do me a favor, go and find me Kamsa, his friend. Guy goes, he didn't hear right, he goes and invites Bar Kamsa. Bar Kamsa comes to the party. That guy had rabbis there, it was a big thing. So he said, what? Kamsa. Middle of the party, get out. Rabbis are all sitting there, nobody said nothing, get out. So Bar Kamsa got embarrassed. Bar Kamsa says, do me a favor, I'm willing to pay for what I eat. You won't lose money on me, don't worry about it. He said, no, I'm not interested. I can get out of here. He's an artist. I'm willing to pay for half the seat. Well, now just let me stay. Don't make a scene. He said, no, I'm not interested. Get out. He said, I'll pay for the whole meal. On me. Just let me stay. He said, I don't want your money. I want you out of here. He threw him out. What does Bar Kamsa say? He says, look at this guy. He embarrassed me in public. And the rabbis were there and didn't say anything. He went to the king, spoke Lashon Hara against the Jews, and it was from that incident that the Roman Caesar started his aggression that led to destroy the Beit HaMikdash. Bar Kamsa started the whole process. Now, you say, wow, what bad guys, they threw him out of the party, let the guy stay, it's a big deal, you know. How bad were they, right? How can they let a guy embarrass him? Why didn't the rabbi say anything? You know what type of guy Bar Kamsa was? Bar Kamsa was like Hitler. What's the proof? He's a Jewish guy. He went to the king and spoke Lashon Hara because he was willing to kill all Klal Yisrael.
And he was Jewish.
He was willing, went to the king, he did it. Jews rebelled against you. What does he want the king to do? Wipe them all out. Is there a bit worse guy than this? There are guys that tattle on one guy or two guys. We pray down me that 3 times a day. They should perish. Here we have a guy called Bar Kamsa wanted all Bnei Israel to die, and he's the catalyst.
He's Jewish.
Jewish.
Yeah, but he was provoked into doing it. Maybe he wasn't like that before.
Right. If you get embarrassed, say somebody embarrassed you very seriously. Will you go to the President of the United States and say there's a revolt, the Jews are rebelling, go kill them all? Will you ever get to that level? There's no question Bar Kamsa was a gangster, was a potential Hitler, and they knew that. And that's why he threw him out of the party, and that's why the rabbis didn't say anything. They knew what they were dealing with. Bar
Still
Kamsa.
not right to
Still
not right to embarrass him.
Are they right or they're wrong?
They're wrong.
I mean, from the...
You tell me, Ralph.
Wrong. You're not
What started the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash? Because they embarrassed them. But what am I trying to prove to you? Even though they had a good excuse, and even though Bar Kamsa was a terrible guy, see from the end of the story what he did, they knew what type of guy he was. We never met a guy like this, but even so, they weren't tolerant enough of Bar Kamsa. Now, if we have to be tolerant of a potential Hitler, if we have to be tolerant of a Yishmael, if we have to be tolerant of Yeshu, Yemach Shemo V'Zichro, all the more so a regular guy, a regular Jew guy sitting next to you in shul, a regular guy you do business with. We don't know any potential Hitlers, we don't know any Yeshu, we don't know any Yishmaels. All the more so even the guy doing something that's a sin. Yeah, I hate the sin, but the guy has it. I feel bad. If everybody loved each other, and everybody was concerned and prayed for the next guy, was worried about the next guy, is sincere concern, that's Ahava. That's Beit HaMikdash, that's Mashiach. Why am I so, this week especially, a guy came to me, I hope you guys are not listening to the tape, because you guys know who it is. I have to say it anyway. A guy came to me in shul this week, and I'm involved in teaching, right? So he came to me and says, this other guy that's teaching, he's destroying, he's doing bad, and he wasn't talking about he was just talking about the philosophies I was saying, and I probably agree with him on a lot of things he said about the guy. He's doing this, he's doing more destruction than good, and I'm with him, yeah, I agree. I wasn't bashing the guy, he was just talking. And then at the end he's getting riled up and more riled up. And he says, Yemach Shemo. And I heard that my heart fell out. Yemach Shemo, a Jew? May his name be erased. That you say on Yeshu, Yemach Shemo. And he said it 3 or 4 times. I can't listen to that. I agree with you on the philosophies. And if anything, I'm more upset than you because I'm teaching. I see it. But don't tell me on a Jewish guy you're not slow. On Jewish guys who say Yishtabach Shemo. And then this week I opened up a sefer right after that and I saw an amazing story. Abnei Nezer was a great rabbi. They came in front of the Abnei Nezer. And they told the Abnei Nezer, some guy was talking about a Rasha in front of the Abnei Nezer rabbi. This Rasha, Yimach Shemo. Jewish guy. He's talking about a Jewish Rasha and he said Yimach Shemo. So the Abnei Nezer says, Yimach Shemo. He says, let me tell you something. Did you ever read Shulchan Aruch? Did you ever read our law book? The law book says that if you have a Rasha that dies without any children, the mitzvah of Yibum has to be performed. Now what's the reason why we fulfill the mitzvah of Yibum? In order that the memory of the dead person will remain. So our Torah is saying when a Rasha dies, there's a mitzvah to keep his memory alive, and you're saying Yimach Shemo. You're smarter than the Torah. You're smarter than the Halacha. I wish I would have known that over there at the time. Be careful how you talk about Jewish people. Never talk bad about Jewish people. Never talk derogatory about Jewish people. If you love someone, you always put it in a good light. You ever see how you go into Sudash Shlishi, everyone's pushing each other to get into the Sudash Shlishi? Or they're doing something, everyone's nudging each other, and so one time you had a Hasidic Rabbi, and all the guys are trying to get into see, pushing each other in, they're trying to hold for position. So the Rabbi said, hell fellas, we have a halakha. The halakha is that if you have a sefer, a book, a sefer of Kodesh, holy book, you're not allowed to rest it upon another sefer. You're not allowed to lean it on another sefer. A Jewish person you're like a sefer. You have a Nishat Man, you're holy people. So you don't have to rest upon each other. You don't have to push each other. It's a sefer pushing a sefer. So one of the students, a wise guy, he says, yeah, but Rabbi, that law is only said that you're not allowed to put a sefer on a chumash. But a sefer on another sefer, like we're doing, you're allowed. So we're allowed to push each other, he says. You have to look at your friend like he's a sefer. But yourself, you're a social studies book. So a social studies book on a sefer, you're not allowed. But your attitude to your friend, he's a sefer Torah. What am I? I'm nothing. I'm biology 1. What am I? I'm nothing. I'm Archie comic book. Unbelievable point. Unbelievable maaseh.
Anytime it's a Jew, you can never...
You take it for granted? Yeah, I'm allowed to push the guy to say that. Hey, you love the guy, you don't push him. The last thing I'll tell you. I hope this changes our attitude a little on outlook in life. Because you're not going to hear somebody tell you the opposite way. You're going to see a lot of people acting the opposite way. You can hear a lot of people talking and making fun and saying these not. Let it be known here tonight, Parashat Pinchas, that the right way is Ahavat Chinam. One rabbi said he was acting very good to people that weren't religious. He was being very kind. So some of his friends said, "What are you doing? These guys are the Shaim. How are you talking to them? How are you loving them? How are you dealing with them?" He said, "Listen, I'd rather get punished in Shamayim for loving too much than hating. Tell me in Shamayim, you shouldn't have loved me. Okay. I'd rather get punished for too much love than too much hate. So even if we go over the border a little, alright, that's not so bad. We'd rather be a fanatic in love than a fanatic in hate. And it's much easier to be a fanatic in hate."
Well, doesn't that mean like you have to love everyone because you have to channel your way of thinking in that way. You have
That's
to love
right.
everyone, no matter. I mean,
You're going
not to love them like that, but you have to always be, because the only way you have to be nice to her. You understand what I'm saying? That way.
You're not hearing me argue. I'm with you.
It brings that on.
I'm with you, Dad. I want to make it clear.
No,
That love, good. I'm with you. I'm pro that. So I gave a class on tonight. But I want to make sure that love is not going to come to water down your religion. You're not going to love a guy so much that you're going to get so and if we, that's why I want to make it clear. The example, I'll say it again. You got to throw Yishmael out of the house, but it's out of love. Okay? Abraham can't say, "Well, I love you so much, Yishmael, so you're going to stay with me, and then I'll ruin your talk." Hey, I don't love you. I love you, but I don't love what you're doing. So you can't, it's hard to do that. If you know a guy that's committing avirot all day long, so you don't got to associate with that guy. If you know a guy that's giving classes, that's giving all crazy type of philosophies, you don't got to go to that class. But the guy himself, Hashem should bring him back to Tishrei B'Av. Hope Hashem opens his eyes one day to understand the things. You see a guy driving on Shabbat, hey, do it. No, I can't associate with a guy driving a car on Shabbat, but you walk by, instead of saying, you say, well, Hashem, please bring him back to religion one day. Oh, I wish this guy would see the light one day. You can't associate with him. I love the guy so much, therefore, go hacking with him on Shabbat, talking with his window down. No, then your Shabbat's becoming a week then. But your attitude about the guy is, the Zohar writes, Abraham prayed for Sodom 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 he stopped. Zohar says Abraham did wrong. Abraham did wrong. What? He shouldn't have prayed at all for Sodom? No, he should have went to one. Imagine that. Sodom!
So you have to love both of them. That's what you're saying. To a point.
That's another class. You have to respect Goyim 100%. You got to respect them. Leave the love for the Jews. Okay. There's a difference. Love, how about Israel? Goyim, you respect them. Out of fear. The last thing I'll tell you, and we mentioned it once, there was two brothers. One was a Kanai, a Zelan. He called himself a Zelan. And one was a moderate, tolerant guy. And there was Ir Nidahat, there was a city that worshipped Avodah Zarah. And the law is that if you have a city that the majority of the city worships Avodah Zarah, Torah says you have to wipe out the whole city. It's on the Torah. You have to destroy, burn the whole city down. The Halakha writes that if there's one mezuzah in the city with the name of God on it, that can save the whole city from destruction. So the zealous brother says, we have a city of people that are worshipping Avodah Zarah. I'm going to go in the city and take down all the mezuzot so we can kill them. And the power of the other brother says, what do you mean? We have a city of worshipping Avodah Zarah. I better go put up a mezuzah to save them. Rabotai, we have to be of the people that put up mezuzot. We have to be of the people that are involved in positive. And we're not of the sect that takes down mezuzot, that's looking to shamble and to bash and to ridicule. We're looking to move positive. We don't throw rocks at cars. We don't use foul language against our friend. We don't talk lashon hara about our friend. We don't go preach on something that we ourselves have not perfected yet. We don't go adorn other people until ourselves are adorned. Pinchas was a big tzaddik. Pinchas is the exception. He's not the rule. And only God can testify Pinchas' truth in conviction, truth in idea, tahara, and purity of thought. And that's why you need a whole parashat to separate what he did to his reward. Because it's a deep thing what he did. And you need time to digest it. And then we can tell you that he got the reward. Rabotai, in 3 weeks we're going to mourn the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash on Tisha B'Av. If somebody's going to ask me, what do we work on these 3 weeks? What should we be thinking about? So of course I'll tell you to think about the Beit HaMikdash, think about Jerusalem. But you want to work on something? Work about Ahavat Chedek. Work about loving your neighbor. And this thing starts at home, by the way. It's easy to love the guy in the street that you see every morning and say, how you doing, Jack? Good to see you. Have a good day. That's very easy to do, by the way. But work it with your wife, and work it with your mother, and work it with your father, who you see every day. It's a little hard. These things all start in the house, by the way. It's easy to love the guy on the bus in the morning. How you doing? Good to see you. That's very easy to give him a smile. But to walk home in the house and smile, and how you doing? Good. I gotta love my wife also. This applies to the wife. This applies to my sister, to my father, to my secretary, to my, you gotta be polite and courteous and these situations. Yeah. And that's where the real test is. And if it starts and then it overflows to the outside. The work that we're involved in now is, see the book I'm reading? Is Zaharu B'Kavod Havrechem. Be careful with the respect of your friends. Guys that are more religious than you also. I didn't talk about tonight, but that's what really should have been discussed. You see a guy in shul praying along Amidah. I love this guy. Not too far on this guy. I think he's religious. What does he do? You see a guy walking with a black hat. Be genuine. We need more guys like this. When you see the fireman walking with his red hat, do you make fun of him? When you see the Yankees take the field with their blue hats, do you make fun of them? When you see the mailman with his hat, do you make fun? The conductor on the train, do you make fun? Also, you see a guy with a black hat. Oh! What's the guy? He's trying to get closer to God. He's trying to get more religious. What do you want from the guy? He's trying to read the Gemara. Oh, the guy's the Kolet. What do you want from him? This applies. Now, I'm talking about guys less religious. We don't have a problem with those guys. We know how to get along with those guys. Very good. Our problem is with the more religious guys. And that's what you got to work on in these students. When you see somebody that's ahead of you in the game, somebody much ahead of you in the game, rabbis, kollel people, students, religious people in shul, see guys standing there, whoa, he thinks better than everybody. He's standing with shit. I love this guy. Wow, look at him. Such strength, such hamrot, such stringency. Wow, what commitment. That's what you got to work on. Work on loving the people that are better than you. See a guy drive down the block with a fancier car than you. Wow, Baruch Hashem. Wow. Just give him extra beracha. Not look at this guy over here driving around with a fancy car like this. What does he think he is over there? The guy's a gangster. See a guy with a nice house? Rabbi Miller says you walk by a guy's house, give him a beracha. Hashem should bring beracha in the house. But he doesn't hear you. He doesn't see you. So what? Hashem has to hear it. You walk by a guy, think in your mind, oh, Hashem should give him good luck to your business. Not, oh, I hope he doesn't make that sick. He's going to be richer than me. The jealousy. Got to work on people that are above you to fear them up also. Whether it's monetarily, whether it's in religion. That's what you have to work on. Got that last point? That's what you got to work on in love. So put your swords away. Take your spears, put them in your pocket. No one go around start making the kana'ut of Pinchas. But even if you see people doing the ma'aseh of Zimri, even if you see people as bad as Zimri was, you got to deal with them. Got the point? All right. End of class.